Good day, everyone. So today we will be checking how to handle null values. So probably we have checked in few occasions how to insert the null values. So if I choose our database, that is BW for binary world, say. So if I want to see what are the latest data was inside the table. So this is the table we have created. Suppose I want to insert some of the values here now. Suppose insert into student, probably we have checked that how to insert values into the tables, into some specific fields. Like I want to insert some value into role and S name and suppose on gender, say I am not interested on age, marks and states. So what should I do? So here I can write values and then roll 11. Suppose I want to insert, suppose pronoun, say, and I want to insert, suppose the gender is male. That's all I want to insert. No age, no marks, only role name and the gender. So this value is being successfully inserted. So take a look. Now, it is a quite common interview question and is a nice one, though we'll not be covering any interview sessions or anything. These classes are only made for the knowledge purpose. If you are really interested to learn SQL, that's all. Means it will be the right place for you. It is not covering any curriculum or it is not covering any interview sessions or anything. So now, but still, I want to mention this is a common interview questions like. Okay, let me give you an example. Suppose in a class, suppose in our class, in students, say, if I write this query, select count star from student. If I do that, suppose we have 100 people in a total class. If I write select count star from student, where people got marks greater than 50. So in that case, suppose I got 70 people are there who got marks greater than equals to 50. So now interviewer will ask, how many people are there who got less than 50 in this case? So general answer came from the candidates. Even I asked this question. I used to ask this question to many candidates. What I got from them is something like, uh, obviously 30 people, because in class we have total number of student is 100. Out of them 70 people got more than 50. So less than 50, obviously 30 people will get that. Okay, let me try the same thing here in our database. So here, if I write select count from student, if I do that, so it will be 11. Okay, so 11 people is there. So if I want to use like how many people got greater than 50, it is 8 people. So if I ask how many people are there who got less than 50, general answer came from the candidates like obviously 3, because we have 11 people altogether. 8 people got greater than 50. So obviously 3 people will be there who will get less than 50. Let me check it out. It is only 2. So who is the one person? For that, I haven't, I cannot see the data because 8 and 2, it makes 10. So who is the another person whose data I'm not getting from any of these two queries? So if I check in the original table, you can see this data that was lastly inserted, Pranav's data, it hasn't any marks. So this data will not come under any of this query. So if your data contains null, so it will not come to any of the queries. Remember this class. So it will be better always not to go for the null values. It is always suggested. Never go for the null values. Try to minimize your null values in the database. It is not obviously, it is every time it is not possible. We have a lots of null value in our database, but it is suggested that if you can minimize that, otherwise this kind of problem you might face. So we will discuss the same thing later when we'll go through the normalization again. But for the time being, you can see the problem with the null. So if you want to see this null value, how can you see this null value? For that, you need to introduce something new, that is select star from student where marks is null. So for any comparison, this Pranav's data will not come. Either it is greater than 50 or it is less than 50, or any calculation, these null value are not going to come if you do not use sentence like this, marks is null. So if I execute that, look, this data will come out. And if you write, so you can practice the same in your SQL Server as well. So if I write marks is not null, then if you execute, it will be something like this. All the values where marks is having a good value, it is not null. So you can see that. So your question, your answer will be here, will be less than equals to 3 people. So if the total people is 11 and 8 people got marks more than 50, so how many people got marks less than 50? It will be less than equals to 3 people. Why less than? Because you can challenge the interviewer, like you haven't mentioned number of the null values in this table. That's why it should be somewhere between 0 to 3. If all the values are null, then you will be getting 0 people, no records will be come out. If there are no null values, then it will be 3. Okay, in our case it is 2, that is less than 3, because we have one null value. So that will be your answer. Just practice that in your SQL Server. You have to practice everything. And I am also going serially. I'm just maintaining with the same set of tables, with the same set of values. Today I have inserted one new value called Pranav. So I am going in the same way. So you can follow whatever I am following. So, and from the first class itself, then you will be able to understand everything, each and everything. So if you get any problem in the query, you can ping me in the chat box or in the comment box, better to say. So I will try to answer all of them. So anyway, so now we can use this query like marks is null or marks is not null. Okay. So let me run it once again and let me check what are the data now. Okay, now suppose, let me go further. If I write select star from student where roll greater than, suppose I'm interested on last 3 values. So roll greater than equals to 8. So it will fetch me last 4 values. Okay, let me do roll greater than equals to 9. So I can see 3 people, Anju, Anshul, and Pranav. So now if I am interested on average marks of these 3 people, so it will be average marks should be 20 plus 17 plus null by 3. But you can see 20 plus 17 plus null by 3. In average calculation, it is not considering the null people. It will be 20 plus 17 by 2, not by 3. If I run this query, 20 plus 17 by 2 means 37 by 2. 37 by 2 means something around 18.5. Let me check. Okay, sorry, I have done marks. It will be age. Sorry. So it should be something like that. 18. Look, because it is not considering, it is integer, so it is 18 something. It is not considering the third data. Means it is not considering something, but it is not doing by 3. If I show you the data once again, it should be by 3, because we know average means the total by the count of people. Here we have 3 people. So 20 plus 17, it will be 37 by 3. 37 by 3 means it will be around 12 point something. But here I'm getting the average as 18. That means what has been done? It is by 2. 20 plus 17 by 2. That's the only thing they have did. Okay. So it is by 2. So it is the problem of the null value. Null is not considered anywhere. So even sometimes you will get some abrupt value as well, because it is not considering null all the time. So if you want to consider null value here, what should you do? You have to do like is null. You can use something like age, 0. What is the role of this is null function? Is null function is saying whenever you will get null for any age, that will be considered as 0. You can write 1, or any value you can give. So here, if your age is null, it will be represented as 0. Let me show you now. This value will be 20 plus 17 plus 0 by 3, means 37 by 3. Now the average will be coming something like 12, not 18. Let me take a look. So now take a look, it is 12. So what I did, let me do it once again. Select star from student. Now I am interested to show the age separately. Suppose comma age. I'm interested to show the age separately. So if I run, look, I have another age here. We have one age. I have another age here. So instead of null, I am interested to show something different. Suppose whenever null value will come, age will be represented as, say, age will be represented as 1. So in case of null value, it will be 1. Take a look. The value is showing as 1. Whereas the original age is for Pranav is null. But as I have used some is null function, it is showing as 1. You can show it as in real life, in industry. So we use 0 generally to make our calculation perfect. So obviously the first preference is to avoid null values. If not, you can go for the is null, or you have to consider that, because if you have any null value in your record set, that might affect on your calculation. So it is always suggested to take care of the null values always. Okay, so here it is becoming 0. Same, I can give you some of the example, like if I write select count star from student, it will give me the total count of the records in the student table, that is 11. But if I write any particular column like marks or age, it will give me 10, because we do not have any marks for the Pranav, for a Pranav data. If you can check, it is 10. Okay, if I do roll, it will again give me 11. So it is suggested always go for the star. Okay, otherwise if you choose only one field like marks or age, you will not get the correct data from the table. Okay, you can see you will be getting 10 here. So if you use star here, you will get the original number of records from the table, that is 11. Otherwise you will get 10. You can do the same in your SQL Server. You can practice the same thing. Okay, so what else I can do with null values? Let me show you. Select star from student. Let me take a look into the data 1 second. Okay, suppose state, I can write something high plus, or I can write something s name, and I can write from state. Okay, states, sorry. That means the name will be displayed with your name, this string from Florida, say from Florida, from California, from Geneva, from Maharashtra. These things will be printed. So if I do that, I will keep an eye what will happen for Pranav's data. Take a look. It will be null plus something is equal to null. Okay, so null plus something is equal to null, because you can see from is a keyword, plus null equals to null. It is not printing something from. It is not printing the letter from here. I mean to say, it is not something you are getting from here, because from plus null, it is becoming null. So sometimes if you have some null value and you want to concatenate that with some other values like state plus, suppose state plus name. So for Pranav, there are a valid name in S name section and state is null. So if I add both of them, it will become George, Florida, Chris, CA, but it will not something like Pranav null. So Pranav plus null, it becomes null. So it is a problem. Suppose I want to write something like this. S name comes from states and I want to see the result for all the data. George comes from Florida. Krish comes from California. Michael comes from California, but it is not writing something like Pranav comes for, because null plus something equals to null. I hope the idea is clear. I am focusing more on this part, on the null values, because sometimes it creates the problem, and you will be puzzled, or you will be you will never understand why your calculation is giving something wrong. So it is very essential to handle null value properly. Okay, so that is the thing. And our most important part is group by and join. Group by we have done in the last class. And before going for the join part, in the chapter 9, what I can remember, so before that I have segregated all the topics into some chapters. So join will come in the 9th class. So before join, we need to understand the how to handle null values, how to handle those things, those minor things we need to cover up, because join is the most important part. No, null is not, but still you need to know null fully, because otherwise it might create some of the problems in future. So always it is suggested to avoid null values. So what I can give, I can write something is null. If it is state, then I can mention, just go for a blank data. In quote, just write a blank. So if I write, it is from Pranav comes from nothing. Okay, or you can mention anything here. You can write nowhere. Pranav comes from nowhere. If any data is null, it will be something like that. Okay, why it happened? It has some other reason. So for the time being, ignore that. So it is something like Pranav comes from nowhere. Okay, from nowhere, it is only 2 digits thing. Florida, California, it is varchar 2. That's why nowhere is primed into no. That was the reason. But do not need to focus on that for the time being. I will discuss on that part as well in the later classes. But yeah, that is the thing. Okay, so it is always to use is null. So suppose, let me dig down into the topic. So because today's class will be fully on the null thing, so more we can see, it will be better for us as well. So suppose instead of state, if state is null, I am interested to see person name and the states. If somehow the state is null, I want to see their gender. Instead of state is null, I want to see the gender. So I can write is null. If state is null, I am interested to see the gender. So that I can do. Take a look. So for all the data, it will be state. For Pranav, as Pranav doesn't have any states tagged to it in the database, so in case of Pranav, it will be gender displaying in the output screen. Okay. So suppose what will happen if gender is even null? Suppose in case of state, let me browse the table once again, select star from student. So what will happen if I want to see, if the state is null, I am interested to see the age. So if I write age here, let me show you. So age is also null. So if state is null, then I want to see age. If even age is also null, I am interested to see gender. Suppose something like this. So you cannot give the data in this way. So it will, is null function always takes 2 input, but here we are giving 3 input, state, age, gender. So it is not meaningful. So in case of that, you can mention if state is null, mention age. Let me run the query. Even this result is null, means this full part is null because state and age both are null. So as a result, the final output, we can see Pranav's data as null. So you can use another is null over that. If this value is null altogether, replace this value with gender. So, okay. So if I run that, so what is happening here? If state is null, then put age. If even age is null, means this total part is null, then this is null function will be active and it will replace this null value to gender. Okay. So if state is null, age is null, then go for gender. Even gender is null, then you can put another is null on the top of that. But here, luckily, the gender is null, so we do not need to go to anywhere. So I can write XX, something like that. But in this case, gender is not null, so we will get a valid gender from this. But you can use multiple is null function here. So look, here state is null, so it will go for the age. Age is null, so this answer will come as null. Now this is null function will be active, and for the null value of this, it will be replacing with gender. Even this gender becomes null, suppose in case, then this total value will be null, and this is null will be active, and this is null will replace this whole value with xxx, with xx. But unfortunately, we do not have gender null, so we can see gender. So this part you can also write in some other way. Use is null function can take only two values. Always it can take two inputs. Look, but you can replace it with coalesce function. Coalesce is something you can give multiple input. State, if state is null, go for the age. If age is null, go for the gender. Even gender is null, then I can mention some constant part, xx, or anything. You can even mention many things, comma, dot, 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 comma, dot, dot, dot. You can mention anything. Okay, but for the time being, I am limiting our query until this. So rather using multiple is null function, you can go for the coalesce. So that is the very easy thing. And people used to ask about the difference between coalesce and is null. But here it is giving a small error, like age is integer. So it cannot be converted to state. So what we can do, a new thing we can learn here, if you write simply cast as varchar, just remember this syntax. It is being used to convert integer or any data type to any format. Here age is integer. So if you want to convert any data type to another, use cast. So what I am doing, just focus on this sentence, these words or this phrase. It is what it is doing. You have to write cast age as, I want to convert age as varchar 10. So just in the bracket mention age as varchar 10. So it will be converting age into varchar 10. And now all the values are in varchar. I can see nothing in numeric or in number or integer. So we can run this query. Look, it is giving a correct set of data. So it is the difference between coalesce and is null. I have presented that practically. So theoretically, if anyone asks what is the difference between coalesce and is null, so you can hope you will be able to answer that. So what else we can do? Let me think. With null. Okay, well, there is another function that we can also learn today. So select star from student. Let me take a look what we have in the database. Null related. Okay, suppose if my highest value is 90, I want to display if any value is 90, I want to put a null. Suppose a weird requirement like that. So you can use something, comma, null if. It is sometimes required. So for a particular value, suppose if the value is 90, suppose marks, comma, 90.00, then it means the value will be null if marks equals to 90. Okay, are you getting the meaning? The value will be null if marks is 90. That means this value will be converted into null. Okay, Maria's record will be converted into null. If you take a look here, the value has been transferred into null because Maria's marks is 90. Okay, so you can use this type of queries as well, but believe me, I haven't used this function much in my career. For the last decade, I have used only one time, I guess. What I can remember, the use of this function is very limited, but still it is better to know everything. So that is another thing that we can use for null values. What else? So I can show you another interesting thing. Suppose if I need to create another student table, what should you do? Do you want to write the same thing once again, create table, something like that? I will say no. Never write those statements once again because the table is already created. So in that case, I can go with the two approaches. First approach is select star from student. Probably I have already given a lecture on that. Just write into something, into some table name, suppose student 2, and the table will be created automatically. But I do not want to go to that approach. I do not want to create that. I just need the script so that I can pass it to some of my student. Okay, that is how I created the student table. So in that case, you can select on the BW database, go to the tables, go to the student table. And if I right click this and go to script table as, and you can get multiple options: create, drop, select, insert, update, delete. But I am interested to see how the table was created at the time, or at the time of creation, means on the first week when we started this journey, how this table was created at that time. If you click on that, it will take some time and it will generate the script like this. It will be like create table, DBO student, role integer, null, and these things. But you can find we haven't used these on primary things. Obviously, you can delete that, but it is a best practice to give these things. I will discuss all of them later, not now. So you can discard this. You can also discard this. We haven't used this kind of brackets, but I have mentioned to use bracket is always a best practice. But still, you can ignore these brackets. If you haven't mentioned anything like null, it will be by default as null. If you delete this, it will be by default as null. Okay, let me delete that. You can convert it in that way. You can ignore this brackets even. Okay, so we have done in that way. We haven't used the brackets. So apart from that, take a look. Here they have used something called set quoted identifier on. So this part I will discuss later. Okay, probably we know this part, how to use BW. So let me delete this part as well. But here, something you can find in this type of queries, like set unseen nulls on. So what is this unseen nulls? Unseen nulls means it is the oldest version of null. Okay, for the time being, just know these things in this way. Unseen nulls means the null with the oldest version. So what does it mean? Let me copy this line and let me go to this, a new SQL window. It means if you give an instruction to SQL Server like set unseen nulls on, that means you can query from your table in this manner, like where age is null. Say, if you run this, you will get a data. You will get Pranav's data. But if I query in this way, like select star from student where age equals to null, you will not get anything here. Let me take a look. You will not get anything. You will not get Pranav's data because unseen null is on. This is the oldest version of null and that is on. For the time being, let it be like oldest version. Okay, but what if we do unseen null off? So if I execute this query, unseen null is now off. So if I run this query, you will get Pranav's data. But if I run this query as well, it will also give me Pranav's data because unseen null is off. So you can directly write something like age equals to null. So that is the usefulness of unseen null. But in generally, we do not query the data in this way. It is not a good part. So always it is suggested, or the default setting is unseen null is on always. If unseen null is on, you cannot write something like where age equals to null. It is not a valid statement. You will not get anything. So we have to follow this way. So this way is suggested always, where age is null. And age is null, and you can put something like and states is something, Delhi or Mumbai, something like that, Maharashtra, something like that. So you can put always things in this way. But here it is null. Is null will be the default setting. Equals to null will not work with the ANSI null. So before creating any tables, always what they do, they just set this ANSI null to on for some default purpose. But at the time of creation of our table, we didn't do anything. We haven't used this type of syntaxes, but it is always good to know why this happened, why they have written this kind of syntaxes, and why we are getting this type of syntaxes while creating the script, creation table script. Okay, so I hope now the idea is clear, because in future we will be getting more records with the null values. So it is very critical, or it is very important to know how we can handle the null values, because otherwise it might create some of the mess, or it might create some of the difficulties while calculation. So it is always good to know the how to handle the null values. So probably we will be getting one exercise at the end of in our group, so we can follow the null value exercise after that. If you get any difficulty, if you face any problem, you can paste the query in the comment box. I will try to answer as early as I can. Okay, so best of luck, and yeah, solve the exercise. Bye for the day.